About Goku and Vegeta, everyone was confused and even shocked at what happened. Not only were those who were killed by Typhon revived, but also all the universes who were erased by Zeno. This of course surprised everyone. They didn't know what to think about it, but eventually the Grand Prix realized when this happened, and maybe that Goku and Vegeta have used the last of their energy to practically escape. So of course they decided to practically do a search for them. Well, back on that, the Royal Guard decided to talk to the Z-Fighters, and eventually recruit the Saiyans from Universe 6 and 7. One of them was willing to be a Saiyan who probably had the power of a demonic key. This Saiyan was known as Cumber. He was probably an ancient Saiyan a long time ago. Of course, he was known to be one of the first ever Saiyans to achieve a different form from the original Super Saiyan God form. He was probably one of the ancient Saiyans who achieved an incredible power and became immortals. He was, of course, Cumber was one of the intense legends. It was known as the first ever demonic Saiyan. Of course, Cumber was pretty impressed by Khalifa able to practically achieve his path, and he will help her train and increase her power and control over it. Of course, Khalifa would have been shocked, but he decides to agree to Cumber's proposal. While, of course, the other individual being a Royal Guard would have revealed himself being Turles. Turles would have been one of the few legendary Super Saiyans. He would have been one of the first ever legendary Super Saiyans who have reached the power of godhood by himself and have increased their powers to the same level as Broly. He was even surprised that Broly actually had the same power as him, the mythical legendary Super Saiyan form. Of course, even Broly was surprised that this individual actually has the same power as him. But Turles could tell that Broly was almost close to surpassing him, so he wanted to train him and help him control the power, since he could tell that Broly was still not used to the power itself. Broly was just relying on instinct and not even utilizing the true power while not utilizing his instinct. So of course Broly was actually in shock that this form can actually fight without actually utilizing his own instinct. And of course Turles decided to try to train him, while the last Royal Guard revealed itself as Yamoshi, the first ever Saiyan to achieve Super Saiyan God. But he was actually in the same form that Vegeta was, but much more different than that. He was in a form of a true Super Saiyan God, but much more evolved than that. Of course, Bart would have been surprised at this form. And eventually Yamoshi explains that after he achieved the Super Saiyan God form, he defeated all evil Saiyans. And he was the one who actually sealed Cumber, who was actually one of the evil Saiyans. Of course, Cumber did apologize a long time ago about the incident about the evil Saiyans, but of course Yamoshi did forgive him since he's his brother. Of course, everyone was surprised that Cumber and Yamoshi were brothers, and they were actually twins. But Cumber was actually the older one by a year, but Yamoshi was much more younger. So yeah. But of course, Yamoshi told Bardock that he would help him continue to increase power over the primal power of the Saiyan, since he could tell that Bardock was close to getting to that level, and he also decided to train Gohan along with it. Gohan, of course, thanked Yamoshi, and eventually they began their training as the Royal Guard, while also decided to take him back on his palace and let them train. Eventually, both Broly, Bardock, Gohan, of course, as well as Kale and Khalifa, trained under the Royal Guards, with their power increasing intensely. Their power was even higher than ever before. Even Broly was surprised that his power can actually increase this much. Turles, of course, was able to help him achieve much more powerful forms, and even help him master his previous ones. Of course, Broly was able to grow him stronger and eventually master his mythical Super Saiyan form, and he was even impressed that he could actually control it much more better than he did when he trained with Goku. Of course, he realized the mistake he was actually trying to focus on. He was just increasing his power without even trying to master it the longer he goes with it. And by doing this with Turles, he was able to increase his power even further. And eventually, Bardock did the same with Yamoshi. Yamoshi was able to help Bardock realize that he can combine any form that he has with God Ki to a point he can make them even stronger, even his primal Super Saiyan 4. And even Super Saiyan 7 as well. Which of course surprised Bardock, and eventually he continued to increase his power way further. Of course, Gohan was able to achieve a new form which he called Divine Beast by combining the power of the Super Saiyan God and Beast mixed together, making it so strong that he was even stronger than ever before. You imagine almost the power of Broly when he uses his true legendary Super Saiyan form, which surprises to everyone else. Even Gohan's potential in his power has increased immensely. Everyone was getting stronger and stronger, while back inside Time Chamber, Goku and Vegeta would have been woken up a long time ago. They would have decided to produce a couple of clones of themselves and train for a couple of thousand years. Both of them were trying to master and increase their powers, knowing that since now their plans have now been revealed, and once they figured out by Zeno, they needed to face off and get ready for this war, to face Zeno by themselves. They of course would continue to train, and Vegeta would have joined them as well. Both of them would have utilized their highest forms. Vegeta would utilize the power of his Dark Super Saiyan form and his True Destroyer state, alongside they're utilizing their new forms as the Omni Super Saiyan form. This one was much more draining to their bodies, but with thousands of years of training, they were able to master it. They're not completely able to master the form, but they're able to get used to the stamina drain and the energy exertion that this form had. Of course, with intense power and increase on over their strength, they're able to grow immensely stronger. Of course, all of them were able to grow immensely powerful, and eventually, of course, they do utilize much more training over a couple of years, with their power constantly increasing as they continue to train. They eventually produce one clones of themselves to practically go to Namek and eventually wish for both of them to become immortals, since they know that their lifespan as Saiyans will most likely reach their limit. And knowing that thousands of years have passed, they most likely will not be able to survive much. But they want to probably push themselves as high as they can, so they utilize the power of the Dragon Balls on Namek to make themselves immortal so they can push each other's bodies to their limits. With this power, of course, Goku and Vegeta grew immensely stronger and more powerful. In this power, they were able to increase their strength into as high as they ever been. Of course, they knew that if they were to face the Royal Guards, they're most likely able to defeat them, but they still continued to train even until then. A couple of 800 millions of years would have passed inside a time chamber, while only 1 year would have passed outside. With, of course, Gohan, Broly, and Bardock eventually became full-fledged Royal Guards. And eventually, Goku and Vegeta were able to master the Omni stages and eventually able to achieve a new form of it, as they decided to call it True Omni Super Saiyan form. True Omni Super Saiyan. In this form, they were even stronger than before, and their power was incredibly great. They also decided to practically utilize the Super Dragon Balls. When actually this 1 year passed, they eventually with this, they were able to practically give themselves the ability to practically be immune to Zeno's erasure and the ability to create life opposites of Zeno, making it so Zeno can actually erase it if they're able to do that. Of course, after that, they decided to train for almost a couple of 100 years and eventually continue their training. Their power was immensely increased, and eventually after mastering the new ability they were able to gain, they grew immensely stronger and more powerful. With this, of course, they both were able to grow immensely powerful, and eventually continue their training and increase their powers. Now they're both fully ready, it's time to practically clone their figures. It's time to practically not reveal their identity until the time comes. They eventually decided to go to Zeno's palace. Of course, the Grand Prix were suspicious of those two figures, they eventually decided to warn them, but of course, after they don't hear his warning, they decide to fight. The Grand Prix, of course, would have tried to fight against them, but Goku and Vegeta would have won way long surpassed him the Grand Prix's level, and eventually they were able to knock him away. Of course, the Royal Guards decided to practically stop them. And of course, Yamoshi would have warned the two, saying that they already know who they are. They can feel their energy, even though they have suppressed it for a long while, they can tell the difference between it. But Goku and Vegeta decided to then throw away their correct figures, and eventually deliver themselves. Of course, the Royal Guards were not surprised, knowing that through their ki, they could tell who they are. Of course, Cumber would have been quite disappointed that they actually want to go against the Omni King. Well, of course, Turles was confused on why they're doing that. But Goku and Vegeta explained to them that they were never getting the reason then why they did that. Because they have not been there to actually witness those true cruelty. Of course, Yamoshi was confused alongside Turles and even Cumber as well, but they decided to fight the two. Yamoshi would then fight off against Goku, while Cumber would have fought off against Vegeta. Of course, Turles decided to practically stay behind and watch the battle. The two battles would have going on, as Goku and Vegeta would easily able to handle both Cumber and Yamoshi. Because of the power that Goku and Vegeta were able to gain, they have a long ways to pass the Royal Guards. They have also acquired a new ability they were able to gain thanks to their Omni forms. It was the ability to practically absorb ki, which is practically a pretty good thing because the power that their opponents possessed was immense. And due to Vegeta practically possessing the power alongside ki of Typhon, he was able to practically consume the evil ki and the demonic ki that Cumber had within him, making it so Vegeta was growing stronger while he was fighting Cumber. Cumber, of course, was confused, but after he utilized his demonic Super Saiyan form, he was to push Vegeta back, but Vegeta would just slightly smirk. He would then power up into his true destroyer state and eventually defeat Cumber, and eventually absorb on the rest of his ki, and eventually leaving Cumber to die. Yamoshi would have seen that and power up into his mythical Super Saiyan God, pushing Goku back, but Goku would just power up into his celestial Super Saiyan, and eventually were able to knock back Yamoshi. Yamoshi would have been shocked by the power that Goku was utilizing as he was pushed back by it. Eventually, of course, Turles decided to intervene and trying to stop Goku, but Vegeta was able to get on his way, and eventually allowing Goku to kill Yamoshi and absorb all of his ki. Goku would have been fully able to heal and eventually power up a lot more. Turles would get angry as he would then power up to his mythical legendary Super Saiyan form, pushing both Goku and Vegeta back, but they were unimpressed by the power. They have seen it by Broly, so they are not actually that impressed. Of course, Turles tells them that after they kill them, their students will come. Of course, Goku and Vegeta were confused what he means, but he means their friends. Bardock, Gohan, and of course, Broly will come because of their death. Of course, Goku and Vegeta would have been shocked by not actually knowing that. They didn't actually know that that Broly and Gohan outside Bardock have became our guards. Of course, towards the last, but they tell them that if they kill him, they will appear on their places. Both of them knew that if they do that, they most likely be able to cause themselves to try to reveal themselves. But knowing that is the only way, they decide to do that. And eventually, after a really long and prolonged battle, they're able to kill Turles, absorbing all his ki and killing him permanently. Eventually, after that, everyone on the Seafars was teleported there, prepared to battle, but Goku and Vegeta utilized their ability in their Omni forms to trap everyone inside the Time Chamber, believing that they don't want to fight their friends or family, believing that they do not need to intervene in this battle. Goku and Vegeta then look at each other and nodded. Eventually, they go back to Zeno's palace, and eventually facing Zeno. Zeno, of course, just looks at them and claps slowly. Of course, Goku and Vegeta are slightly confused, but they're serious in this matter. Zeno reveals that he actually knows that they both have been reincarnated, or reborn. He has been known for the very beginning. Of course, this surprised Goku and Vegeta, but Zeno tells us that he didn't know what the power of practically reborn him. But he wanted to practically get rid of them, and he would do that and would not do the same as his past self did. He would tell them that they have one choice: either surrender and die, or their universe will get erased. Goku and Vegeta said to Zeno to try it out as they taunt him. And of course, Zeno decided to do that, erasing Universe 7. But Goku and Vegeta clenched their fists together, and eventually, with their power, they're able to practically revive Universe 7. Of course, Zeno was surprised and shocked, but Goku and Vegeta were able to punch him in the stomach, sending him flying. Zeno coughs out blood, but he says that they have done for. He's not being able his true power up until this point. Goku and Vegeta are pondering what Zeno means. Before they can say anything, Zeno powers up, shaking the entire Omni Palace and destroys it. Only debris is left out. While both would the power to the strongest stages, knowing that if they are to face Zeno, they must go all out. They both would power up to their true Omni Super Saiyan forms, with Zeno powering to his true form, telling that this is himself and his max power and true stage of power. This actually surprised both Goku and Vegeta, but eventually the two guards that Zeno had would appear, and eventually Zeno will absorb them, now fully gaining his 100% power. This surprised both Goku and Vegeta as now Zeno was utilizing Ultra Instinct. They're surprised that he can utilize the power of Ultra Instinct on top of his true form, which I actually didn't know that Zeno could do that. Zeno explains them that Ultra Instinct is a basic technique for a much more higher gods than angels, so him able to utilize it should not be that surprising to both Saiyans. Of course, Goku and Vegeta knew that, since both of them had Ultra Instinct, but to see a higher being able to utilize it so efficiently, and of course with ease, was even more surprising to both of them. But they decided to continue to battle with Zeno. Zeno was unimpressed by their power and told them that they're weak. He then pushes them back with a ki blast, but both of them were able to dodge the attack. With their immortality, they were able to practically keep themselves away from Zeno's erasure. Of course, Zeno did try to erase him, but because of their Omni forms abilities, they're practically immune to Zeno's erasure because they're Omni gods themselves because of Zeno. Just like Zeno, they're Omni gods. But of course, Zeno was the Omni King, while Goku and Vegeta have reached the level of an Omni God, which is much more higher. But of course, Zeno's power was immensely powerful. Zeno continued to battle with them, and he decided he's had enough. As soon as he's had enough, Zeno starts to absorb all the angels and destroyers. Surprisingly, Goku and Vegeta, as Zeno does that, and eventually Zeno powers up, growing pair of wings as he grows immensely more powerful. Goku and Vegeta are in shock as he sees Zeno doing that. Zeno's power increases thousandfold and then billions upon billions of times. Both of them get worried as they realize that Zeno's power has now increased immensely. If you do not stop Zeno now, he'll most likely grow too strong. So both of them decide to power to their maximum power up. Their hair growing slightly longer as both of them continue to rush at Zeno. Of course, Zeno was in shock as both of them were still able to keep up with him. Zeno was in shock because both of them were now utilizing their true powers. Up until now, they've only been utilizing 80% of their power, but now they realize they are full 100% power. Zeno was in shock as he was starting to actually lose the battle. He was in shock that two mortals, who he erased in the past, were now fighting him equally, if not even overpowering him. Zeno was in shock because he actually could feel that both of Vegeta's power was almost endless. He could not believe it. How could those two mortals defeat him so easily? It shouldn't be possible. He's the Omni King. He's the one who created everything. He should have been the one to win. Not them. Not those stupid mortals. He should have raised them and not even think about reborn them. Of course, Goku and Joe confused what Zeno means. But Zeno tells him about an ancient being. A being who appeared a couple of years before them. He was the one who created many timelines. He was protecting them for almost 3 years. This individual was known as Gogeta, the creator of all Saiyans. He was the one who created almost all versions of Vegeta and Goku's who were born with extraordinary power and potential. He knew about them because every Omni King from different timelines would have known about Gogeta's existence, just like Zalama himself. But Goku is one being which exists in almost every timeline. And Zama is a being who exists almost as well as in every timeline, but it's just one being and not multiple of them. This of course surprised Goku and Vegeta to realize this is actually being true. But of course, Zeno explained that one Zalama is actually a good person, while another is an evil person, which is why this is much more different than many others. Of course, Goku and Vegeta tell them that they don't care about that. As long as they defeat Zeno, that's all they care about. Zeno says they're fools, and they will die for it. But Goku and Vegeta were able to overpower Zeno. Zeno was in shock is because he was overpowered. Zeno had enough, and decided to practically absorb even the Super Dragon Balls, believing that with their power, he would be able to overpower both of them. But Goku and Vegeta decided to not do that. Eventually, realizing the power of their Omni stages, they're able to practically cancel out the ability of Zeno to practically absorb anything. And then decided to start to absorb Zeno's ki. Zeno was in shock because his ki was starting to get absorbed by Goku and Vegeta. But Goku and Vegeta tell him that he's nothing comparable to them. They have wished for the power to match him and not even overpower him. And through intense training and harsh work, they're able to do that. If Zeno does not go all out or realize his true power, they will not spare him. Just like he didn't do that with them back in the past. Zeno just grunts and eventually powers up. His once purple body became silver in color. And he tells them that they are fools. He was saying his max power, Zeno rushes at them, but Goku and Vegeta were able to block his attacks. Zeno was in shock as Goku and Vegeta were actually getting serious. Vegeta's eyes changed, now covered in black as his pupils were pure white, while Goku's eyes were now silver. Similar to a powerful Trinity, while Vegeta was now utilizing the power of every of his destroyer forms on top of his Omni form, while Goku was utilizing the power of every old Trinity form he has ever had into his new form. Zeno is practically pushed into utilizing this new stage of power, which they call their primal Omni forms. In these forms, they combine every single transformations that they have into their new forms. In these forms, they are so strong that they can be considered invincible. Of course, Zeno was in shock as both of them were able to push Zeno back. Zeno was in shock, he could not even believe this was happening. He was losing. Goku and Vegeta then punched Zeno and eventually split almost every angel and destroyer he was absorbing. Even almost every universe which was absorbed by Zeno because of the byproduct of it. Of course, Zeno was in shock, he coughed out blood. He could not believe it. Those two mortals overpowered him. It shouldn't be possible. He shouldn't have lost. But yet, he's here now. Losing by those two mortals. Zeno tries to erase the entire timeline, but both of them were able to cancel out just in the nick of time. Vegeta yells to Goku that they must end it now. So both of them powered to their strongest attacks. Goku powers up an Omni Kamehameha, and Vegeta powers up the Omni Final Flash. And both of them merge the attacks together to create Final Omni Kamehameha. And with his power, they're able to annihilate Zeno. Zeno screams in pain as he's completely erased from existence. And eventually, nothing of him is left just by particles. Both Goku and Vegeta absorb the particles, eventually gaining the power of Zeno, able to the ability to erase beings and create new ones. Of course, both Goku and Vegeta were happy, and eventually they released everyone from the time chamber. All the Zephyrs were confused with what happened, but eventually both Goku and Vegeta explained the reasons and what happened, and how they were reborn. Everyone was shocked by learning this information, even both Goten and Trunks as well, soon that their fathers were actually reborn. Goku and Vegeta told them they want to do that for their own safety, but that they want to fight their families, because they truly love them too much to even hurt them. Both Broly, Gohan, even Trunks and Goten were surprised by this. But of course, Gohan and Goten heard their father, and Trunks does the same as well. Vegeta and Goku just smile slightly, and they apologize to Broly for keeping this secret for so long. But Broly just smiles slightly and tells him that it's alright. As long as his friends are still the same, he does not mind it. Eventually, of course, after some time, the grandparents also learns about this, and eventually learns how both Vegeta were raised by Zeno, and how Zeno saw everything as just a plaything. And eventually, the grandparents decides to agree with them, and eventually make Goku and Vegeta the Omni Kings. Well, of course, Goku and Vegeta were kind of against that, but eventually, after some time, they were able to agree to this title. Of course, Beerus was still kind of couldn't believe that Goku and Vegeta were able to defeat Zeno, and eventually became the new Omni Kings. But knowing that he could not disobey them, he decided to agree to this. Eventually, a year would have passed, and eventually peaceful time would have been returned to entire multiverse. And eventually Goku and Vegeta would have continued their Overwatch as the new Omni Kings. But eventually, a strange individual will appear. This individual would have been covered by black flames, and was on guard as they powered up to a strong stage because they could feel the immense power from the individual. But the individual just revealed his black wings, and eventually the Grand Priest was in shock as he saw that. The Grand Priest didn't realize who that was, and eventually he said the word, "Wait, is that you, Castiel Master?" Of course, Castiel just slightly smiled, and eventually confirmed when the Grand Priest actually mentioned. Of course, Goku and Vegeta were confused with what the Grand Priest meant, but the Grand Priest explained that Castiel is known to be the first ever angel to ever exist. He was the one who actually trained every Omni King from every existing timeline. and to be known to be the master of Zalama as well. Of course, Castiel did confirm that, and eventually explained to Goku and Vegeta of the threat of Zalama. The evil version of him is that much. It's from the version from his timeline, who's actually the original Zalama who created every different type of Super Dragon Balls. Of course, Goku and Vegeta were confused with what Castiel meant, but eventually Castiel explained that Zalama was a being who created the Omega Super Dragon Balls. Those Dragon Balls could only be awakened in only 100 millions of years of time, and that time was reaching really soon. Castiel went to warn both Goku and Vegeta from every timeline to prepare for this battle to come, because the war between Zalama and all the mortals will begin really soon. Of course, Goku and Vegeta were in shock to learn this information, and eventually explained how does he even know them. And eventually, Castiel explained the entire timeline that he comes from Goku and Vegeta, that they were trapped inside the Angelic Time Chamber and everything like that. Of course, Goku and Vegeta is surprised to actually learn that their other selves were able to go this strong just by trying to break their limiters, which was a surprise to both of them and really able to utilize this type of power. But of course, Castiel could tell that both Goku and Vegeta from this timeline were almost close to the level of his Goku and Vegeta, but eventually there were no Goku and Vegeta in his timeline. There was only Gogeta, because they're now fused into a permanent being. Which surprised Goku and Vegeta, and Vegeta was kind of angered that he was permanently fused to Goku. But eventually Castiel explained why it was permanent and the reason why. Of course, Goku and Vegeta were surprised that version of Zen was this powerful. Of course, Castiel did explain to them that their version of Zen wasn't even quite powerful, but comparable to his own version, which came from his own timeline, was much more difficult to fight because of his power and experience because of the Grand Priest. Of course, this was actually a surprise to all of them to know that Zen was this powerful and strong. But of course, Castiel didn't tell them and warned them to continue to increase their powers and strength, because they will need it a lot. But Goku decided to not and thank Castiel, as Castiel wished him good luck and eventually disappeared to the next timeline to warn the others Goku and Vegeta for this powerful threat of Zalama, knowing that if they're everyone that could face this powerful being was to be Goku and Vegeta, because they're known to be the two strongest mortals to ever exist. Born with almost infinite potential and power, they both could defeat him, no matter which timeline they are. Even if one was missing, the other was able to grant this power and help. So Castiel go to every timeline he could to warn about the threat of Zalama, believing that this will be the only way for them to defeat this powerful threat. This is the end for this story, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sayonara, my fans. See you next time.